Scroll Sword, welcome back. We are finishing the book of Mark today. Congratulations. You just read chapters 13 through 16. And we're going to focus on Mark 13 today, the totality of this chapter, because it's very important. Jesus' extended teaching on the Mount of Olives about the temple, the future, and the coming of the Son of Man. It's called the Olivet Discourse. And this conversation begins with architecture. A disciple admires the massive stones of the temple complex, and Jesus answers with a prophecy that would have sounded unthinkable. Every stone will be torn down. Every stone will be torn down. And in Jewish imagination, the temple was not merely a building. It was the meeting point of heaven and earth. And to predict its destruction was to announce a seismic covenantal change. And later, seated across from the temple on the Mount of Olives, 4 disciples privately ask when these things will happen and what sign will mark their fulfillment. And their question merges 2 horizons, the fall of Jerusalem and the end of the age. And Jesus' response weaves those horizons together without flattening them into a single moment. He begins with caution. False messiahs will arise. Wars and earthquakes will erupt. Yet Jesus calls these birth pains. The Greek term here refers to labor contraction. Pain isn't presented as chaos spiraling out of control, but as the beginning of something, not the breaking in. Turmoil does not equal abandonment. And next comes persecution. Disciples will be handed over, tried, and hated. And the language echoes prophetic suffering in Israel's history. Yet embedded in the warning is mission. The gospel must be proclaimed to all nations. Judgment and global proclamation unfold simultaneously. Then Jesus invokes Daniel's phrase, the abomination of desolation. In Daniel, this described a profaning force that desecrates the temple. And for Mark's readers, it likely resonated with Rome's destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70. But Jesus does not stop there. He shifts into cosmic imagery drawn from Isaiah and Daniel. The sun darkened, stars falling, heavenly powers shaken. This is prophetic language signaling divine intervention. And the climax arrives with Daniel chapter 7. The Son of Man coming with the clouds. In Daniel's vision, this figure receives everlasting dominion from the Ancient of Days. Jesus identifies himself with that exalted ruler, and earthly temples crumble. The Son of Man is vindicated. And the discourse closes with parables about watchfulness. No one knows the day nor the hour, not even the Son in his incarnate mission. The emphasis is not decoding timelines, but cultivating readiness. Like servants waiting for a master's return, disciples live alert, faithful, and steady. Consider how storm warnings function and sirens. They're not given, so citizens obsess over radar data. They are issued so homes are secured and priorities are adjusted. And Jesus speaks about the future in the same way. Be ready. If you see these signs, they are signs of the time. Be ready. Not here yet. They are birth pains. And Mark 13 teaches that God's purposes are not derailed by upheaval. Temple structures can fall, nations can rage, but the Son of Man receives dominion. History moves toward divine vindication, not random collapse. And when headlines feel apocalyptic, this chapter anchors perspective. Turbulence is not proof that Christ has lost authority. The call is endurance, discernment, and faithfulness. And rather than chasing predictions and crazy doctrines that have only existed for 150 years, disciples, they fix their hope on the returning Son of Man and live prepared lives in the present. Love y'all. See y'all in the discussion room.